Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab for our final installment of the Mad Science Washington Wizards partnership for this season. I am here to talk to you guys now about the elephant in the room. And by the elephant in the room, I mean, like actually imagine that there's an elephant in the room right now. And then imagine that elephant came over to you and sat down right on top of you. Now, imagine that another elephant came in and that one sat down on top of you too. Well, does not sound like fun, does it? Well, guys, I got news for you. You are currently holding up the weight of 2 whole elephants right now. That's right, you are getting crushed by 2 whole elephants, and you are so strong, you are holding them up. Obviously, I don't mean literal elephants, right? I'm talking about air. Let's think about this. We learned about gravity a few months ago. Well, gravity will pull you back down to Earth. Well, guys, it also pulls the air back down to Earth because air is a thing, okay? So as it pulls that air down to Earth, well, it's crushing everything on Earth, including you. So all that air between you and space is sitting on top of you, and it weighs about 2 elephants worth is what is crushing you right now. We call that air pressure. So going back to when we learned about forces, right? We have pushing forces and pulling forces. Well, gravity is a pulling force that pulls you down, right? If you jump, you have a pushing force that pushes you up, okay? Pressure is a type of pushing force, but it's the force of pushing all around on all sides, right? So if I wanted to apply pressure to this ball, I would squeeze on all sides. Now, ideally, when you squeeze a basketball, you don't want that to really move at all or really squish at all, right? When you apply pressure. And so to do that, you need to make sure that you have more than 2 elephants worth of pressure on the inside of the ball, just like you do on the outside. And then you probably want to have even more than that, honestly. So when you pump this full of air, guys, what happens is it goes from looking like this to this, and then eventually to this, right? Well, that's because we're pumping air in there to push back against those elephants of weight. Now, again, to remind you, I'm not talking about real elephants here, right? That is just a way to remember about how much weight there is or about how strong that pressure is. So we need to be able to push back against it. Same thing with a balloon. If I were to blow up a balloon, I could pump air into there pretty easily. A lot easier than it would for a basketball, right? You wouldn't be able to get enough air in there using just your mouth. But with a balloon, you can. There we go. So as I add more air to my balloon, the pressure inside increases, but the pressure on the outside stays the same. It always stays pretty much the same, right? So as I add more air to it, it starts to expand. Then if I let it out, our balloon goes back to normal size. Now, what if you played basketball on the moon? Well, first of all, our gravity lesson wouldn't apply as much. It would still be true, but it would be a little bit different, right? It'd be less gravity. But if you were to play basketball on the moon, you also wouldn't have any air, which means no air pressure. Now, what would happen to your basketball if you did not have air pressure? Well, let me show you here. So I have right here something called a vacuum chamber. Now, you probably heard the word vacuum, right? You probably have a vacuum at home. Well, your vacuum cleaner at home works by getting rid of all the air inside of it, so it's totally empty. Now, vacuums don't like to exist. There's no air pressure in them. And so what they do is they suck up all the air they can to fill that. And in your house, that would suck up dirt off the floor as well. But in this vacuum, there will be no way for it to suck up air because this pump right here only allows air to go out, not in. And so as I pump the air out, you'll notice our balloon, even though it was already tied shut, is expanding and getting bigger. Take a look at that. It now fills the whole jar. And so if you were playing basketball on the moon, your basketball would just get bigger and bigger and bigger without you even doing anything, right? It would certainly never go flat, but it would also probably get so big that it explodes, which would not be great. Now, of course, when we add the air back in here, guys, we're gonna take this, we're gonna pull this off. It will allow the air back in. And since the balloon doesn't actually have any more air in it than when we put it in, it will, of course, go back to normal size once it has to compete against those 2 elephants worth of pressure again. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me here in the Mad Science Lab this last time. I can't wait to see you guys again in the future. Thank you so much for joining me these past few months. and I can't wait for next year. Thank you, guys.